Bonjour and welcome to WASA Distance Education. This is PLAR English and I'm Andrea. This is our last class of this school year. We are going to be looking at the practice test today. I just have a quick reminder for any PLAR students out there. This Friday, June 16th is the last day to hand in your work. That's for all PLAR students. And over the summer, you could continue working on things, but you would be doing that independently. So you could still do work on your PLAR subjects, but all of the PLAR teachers are off for the summer. So what you could do is you could do some work on your own, and if your learning center is open, you could even hand in your work, and then what would happen is your distance education coordinator would hold on to your work and then hand it in once the PLAR teachers are back. And we're back at the very end of August. So again, the PLAR teachers are off for the summer, so no, no questions to PLAR teachers, no marking for PLAR teachers. So what happens is that date of June 16th, this Friday, that's the last day to hand in your work, right? And I mean, let's say that the PLAR teachers get a whole bunch of things handed in on the 16th, then that gives them the week after to finish marking them, right? So you'll still get, don't worry, you'll still get feedback. Right? It's just that we had to have this deadline of the 16th so that everything could be marked before the teachers left for the summer. So I hope that's clear. This Friday, last day to hand in your PLAR work. That includes PLAR English work. Okay, so we're going through a practice test today, and so again, it's not the same as the actual test that you'll write, but it'll have the same kind of sections in it, right? I mean, and of course, all the questions will be different. But when you write the final test, you'll need to know that it is a closed book test, so you get no notes for the final test. And with the final test, there's also a 2-hour time limit, and when you're writing the final test, you must write it at the Learning Center. So obviously I'm sharing a practice test with you today. If anybody felt like going through this practice test on their own, they could use the notes from after today's class as like a guide, right? So you could practice with the practice test, and then you could look at these notes. I also I don't mind if you wanted to do the practice test and then ask me to mark it for you and get feedback that way. Um, whatever is best for you, right? And not everybody needs to do the practice test before they write the final test. That's always up to you. Sometimes I might recommend that you go through the practice test if there was, say, one area that I felt like you maybe need a little bit more practice with. For example, maybe say when you're answering reading comprehension questions, maybe you need to work on some of your sentence structure, for example. So you'll see as we go through this that I'll point some things out that are sort of common areas of errors, and I'll talk about them, and hopefully that will be helpful. This practice test will be helpful when you go into the final test. Okay, so um, there are 4 sections, and I'll just go through the test quickly to explain overall the sections that there are. So the first part is reading comprehension, and what you do is you read a passage, and then you answer questions about it. The second part is all about paragraph writing. There's 2 questions. The first question is you read a paragraph, and then you underline certain parts of that paragraph to demonstrate that you understand how a paragraph is structured overall, right? The overall structure of a paragraph. And then you do some rough notes which are not marked, and then you take those rough notes and you write a oh, here's the second question, and you write a paragraph uh, expressing an opinion about a topic, and we'll get to that topic today. Okay, so you do the rough notes which are not marked, and then this part is marked where you write out your final paragraph, and then we'll go through how that's evaluated. And then the third part is some multiple choice questions that have to do with parts of speech and punctuation. And you'll see there will be a couple of questions about just thinking about the details in a paragraph that are either needed or not needed. You'll see when we get there. So multiple choice questions, and then this last section is really quick. It's called media awareness. And you look at a picture and you use that picture to imagine a newspaper article. So you're making up a headline, you're making up a caption, and then you're answering some questions about it. All right, so let's go back to the top here, and we'll start off. So what you would do is one strategy is to kind of look through the whole test and figure out where you'd like to start from. So you can budget your time in whichever way works for you. For example, maybe you might want to get one section over with, right? Maybe you think that the media awareness section is the easiest, right? So maybe you want to do that first, right? You don't necessarily have to go in order. We will go in order today, though. All right, so I will get started here. I will read this passage, and then we will talk about it as we answer the questions that go with it. It is easy to make a delicious-looking hamburger at home, but would this hamburger still look delicious after it sat on your kitchen table under very bright lights for 6 or 7 hours? If someone took a picture or made a video of this hamburger after the 7th hour, would anyone want to eat it? More importantly, do you think you could get millions of people to pay money for this hamburger? These are the questions that fast food companies worry about when they produce commercials or print ads for their products. Video and photo shoots often last many hours. The lights that the photographers use can be extremely hot. These conditions can cause the food to look quite unappealing to potential customers. Because of this, the menu items that you see in fast food commercials are probably not actually edible. Let's use the hamburger as an example. The first step towards building the perfect commercial hamburger is the bun. The food stylist, a person employed by the company to make sure the product looks perfect, sorts through hundreds of buns until he or she finds one with no wrinkles. Next, the stylist carefully rearranges the sesame seeds on the bun using glue and tweezers for maximum visual appeal. The bun is then sprayed with a waterproofing solution so that it will not get soggy from contact with other ingredients, the lights, or the humidity in the room. Next, the food stylist shapes a meat patty into a perfect circle. Only the outside of the meat gets cooked. The inside is left raw so that the meat remains moist. The food stylist then paints the outside of the meat patty with a mixture of oil, molasses, and brown food coloring. Grill marks are either painted on or seared into the meat using hot metal skewers. Finally, the food stylist searches through dozens of tomatoes and heads of lettuce to find the best-looking produce. One leaf of the crispiest lettuce and one center slice of the reddest tomato are selected and then sprayed with glycerin to keep them looking fresh. So the next time you see a delectable hamburger in a fast food commercial, remember you're actually looking at glue, paint, raw meat, and glycerin. Are you still hungry? Well, that really got me thinking about what I would actually be eating if I tried to eat one of those burgers that I see on television, right? Um, so, so I just wanted to point out that the writer is expressing an opinion here. Um, and I mean, it's a descriptive paragraph as well, right? It's describing what happens behind the scenes at a hamburger commercial for sure. That's another way to look at this paragraph. But as I go through and answer the questions, in my opinion, if I had to choose how to explain this paragraph, explain what it was all about, I mean, I would say that it's mostly a persuasive paragraph, and the writer has the opinion that a hamburger, a hamburger on a commercial isn't really as good as it looks. That's how I would explain it anyway. I mean, you could could use slightly different words to explain that. So let's just start off here. Let's look at the first question. Okay, so what is the author's primary purpose for writing the above passage, right? So what we just read, what is the author's purpose? So if we talk about this and if we say, if you agree with me and you think that this is persuasive writing, right, then with persuasive writing, the writer has an opinion and wants to convince the reader to think or act differently, right? So thinking differently about the food that they see on television, specifically hamburgers, right? So one thing that we could say, right, we could say something like this. We could say the author's purpose is to convince the reader that food seen in a commercial like a hamburger is not as healthy or delicious as it looks. Right? Maybe when you read the little story there, you thought, well, you know, okay, it could be persuasive, but I felt like it was more descriptive than persuasive, right? So maybe you wanted to say something like the author's purpose is to describe what happens behind the scenes at a hamburger commercial, right? Or what happens behind the scenes during the making of a hamburger commercial, something like that, right? Both of those answers would be correct. And what I'm sharing with you here, right, the author's purpose is to convince the reader that food seen in a commercial like a hamburger is not as healthy or delicious as it looks. In my opinion, that is the best answer. It doesn't mean that another answer would not also be marked correct. I just wanted to share with you what I feel is the best answer. Okay? Question 2. Why do you think fast food companies use things like glue and glycerin on hamburgers that appear in advertisements? Here's the key to this question. It says, use the information in the passage to support your answer. So we're looking for the words glue and glycerin, and we're trying to find those words in the passage and then explain, based on the information that we read, why we think fast food companies use glue and glycerin on hamburgers. Okay, so we'll go back, and this is exactly what you would do. You would go back and you would look for the information. Now, I'll give you a hint here. When you're trying to find information, um, the general structure is going to be that the very first paragraph gives us a hint about what the whole thing is about, right? So, you know, glue and glycerin is a pretty specific detail, so you're probably not going to find it in the very first paragraph, and you're probably not going to find it in the very last paragraph either, right? So now, oh, look, we see glycerin here, keep them looking fresh. Okay, and then, oh, wait, here's glue, right? Glue, so it says, next, the stylist carefully rearranges the sesame seeds on the bun using glue and tweezers for maximum visual appeal. Keep reading. The bun is then sprayed with a waterproofing solution so that it would not get soggy. Okay, so that's not glycerin, but glue is here. So they're gluing sesame seeds on to make it look better. That's what the glue's for. Okay, make it look better. Gluing sesame seeds onto the bun to make it look better. And then glycerin is sprayed. Maybe glycerin is waterproof. I don't know exactly what glycerin is. That's okay though, because all I need to know is that they're spraying the glycerin on to keep the the vegetables looking fresh. It says 1 leaf of the crispiest lettuce and 1 center slice of the reddest tomato are selected and then sprayed with glycerin to keep them looking fresh. Okay, so we can say something like this. So we have to think about what we just read. So this would work. According to the passage, glue and glycerin are used on hamburgers and advertisements to make the food look better and to keep it looking fresh. So we don't have to be super specific. We don't have to get into the whole gluing the sesame seeds onto the bun. It's just, I mean, overall that would make the food look better, right? Being able to use glue on it. And then the glycerin would be to keep it looking fresh. That's an example of a sentence. According to the passage, glue and glycerin are used on hamburgers and advertisements to make the food look better and to keep it looking fresh. Question 3. The word edible is used in paragraph 2. What does it mean? Okay, so another word for edible is palatable. Some of you might be thinking, well, if it's edible, I can eat it, right? Yeah, you're right. Okay, so maybe you already know the answer, but that's okay. Always look back at the story just to be sure. So we'll go back here. It says the word edible is used in paragraph 2. Okay, so let's look at paragraph 2. And the second paragraph is right here underneath the first one. So just in blue here, I put a little blue box here. So, oh, here it is. Okay. Okay, so I'll just read the last 2 sentences of this second paragraph. These conditions can cause the food to look quite unappealing to potential customers. Because of this, the menu items that you see in fast food commercials are probably not actually edible. Okay, so I mean, this whole paragraph is all about what they do to the food and just the fact that you can't eat it in real life, right? They make it look good, but you can't actually eat it. So how would we explain that in an answer? You know, what does edible mean? Well, you could say something like this. The word edible means that you have something that you can eat. You could explain it that way, right? If you wanted to use the word palatable, you know, you could say the word edible means palatable if you wanted. I would mark that as correct. Another thing to keep in mind is that you are allowed to use a dictionary or a thesaurus, right? So if you were reading the story and you couldn't figure out what a word meant based on the context clues, right? Based on, you know, reading it and trying to figure out, okay, what do I think this word means? Look it up in the dictionary. You're allowed to do that. Okay, question 4. According to the passage, why might a food stylist working on a hamburger commercial use glue? Okay, so all we need to do is find the word glue and figure out why they're using it. And you might, you know, you might have felt like you already answered that question, so it might be easy for you to find that. Glue, glue. Ah, here we go, right? Next, the stylist carefully rearranges the sesame seeds on the bun using glue and tweezers for maximum visual appeal. Okay, so let's look at it. A way that we could answer this question. Why might a food stylist working on a hamburger commercial use glue? And we're using information from the article to answer the question. So here's an example of an answer. A food stylist might use glue to make the hamburger look better. The stylist can glue sesame seeds onto the bun. So that's where I put a little bit more specific information there. I mean, if all you said was a food stylist might use glue to make the hamburger look better, I would mark that as correct because you would still be taking information from the passage to answer the question, right? I just added this second sentence just to make it clear for anybody that is looking through this practice test here. Okay, question 5. What are the most important features of the lettuce and tomato used in a fast food hamburger commercial? What are the most important features? What do they mean by that? Well, when somebody says what are the most important features, it's like saying, what does the lettuce need to be like and what does the tomato need to be like so that it's the kind of lettuce and tomato that we actually want people to see, right? So what does the lettuce need to be like? What does the tomato need to be like in order for it to be worth using in our commercial? Let's go back and look for the words lettuce and tomato here. I highlighted them earlier. Ah, here we go, second last paragraph. Finally, I'll just read the second last paragraph again. Finally, the food stylist searches through dozens of tomatoes and heads of lettuce to find the best looking produce. It has to look good. More specific, they get into it here. It says, 1 leaf of the crispiest lettuce and 1 center slice of the reddest tomato are selected and then sprayed with glycerin to keep them looking fresh. Okay, but we're just focusing on what the lettuce needs to be like and what the tomato needs to be like. So the lettuce needs to be crispy and the tomato needs to be red. Okay, crispy lettuce, red tomato. Remember that? Go back to the question. Crispy lettuce, red tomato, crispy lettuce, red tomato. Here's an example answer. The lettuce needs to be crispy and the tomato needs to be red. Question 6. According to the passage, why might a food stylist use glycerin while working on a hamburger for a commercial? Okay, so they're specifically asking about glycerin. Some of you might remember it's to keep the food looking fresh, or you might not remember, so then you would go back and you would look at the article again. And oh, here we go. Second last paragraph. One leaf of the crispiest slice and one center slice of the reddest tomato are selected and then sprayed with glycerin to keep them looking fresh. So it's about keeping those vegetables fresh, or just to keep the food in general looking fresh. Both would be correct answers. Although if I was nice and specific, that would be, let's see what I decided to write here. Oh, okay, that works. A food stylist might use glycerin to keep the vegetables on the hamburger looking fresh, right? Because in this case, in this example, they're talking about lettuce and tomato, but there could be other vegetables too. So that's a good answer. A food stylist might use glycerin to keep the vegetables on the hamburger looking fresh. All right, last question here for this first part. The word delectable is used in the final paragraph. What other word can you use to mean delectable? So they're looking for a synonym here. So they're looking for another word that means the same thing. Synonym is another word that means the same thing. So let's go look at that final paragraph and look for the word delectable. Here we go. I put a purple box around it for anybody that can see the screen. I'll just read this sentence here. So the next time you see a delectable hamburger in a fast food commercial, remember, you're actually looking at glue, paint, raw meat, and glycerin. Are you still hungry? So, I mean, the word that comes to my mind is delicious, right? I mean, they're trying to make it look better. They're trying to make it look more edible or more palatable. Um, so they're trying to make people want to eat it. They're trying to make it delicious. That's another word that I would use for delectable. Another word might be tasty, right? Um, tasty, delicious. Both of those would work. So this is what you could say. This is an example of an answer. Another word for delectable is delicious. Okay, continuing on. All right, so the thing about part 2 here is at the very beginning you have some information that's shared with you. And then you have question 1 here, and you don't want to forget about the first question, right? It's worth 2 marks. We'll get to it. And then at the very bottom, you have question 2, and we'll get to that as well. Sometimes when you write a test, there might be some information that you'll need to read before you can answer a question. And for anybody that can see the screen, I've put some red underline, I've underlined a few things in red, and I've put a box around something here, and I've added some words here in red. Let me just read this and then I'll explain why I've done all that. Part 2, paragraph writing. You have probably noticed that the texts you read are always organized into groups of sentences called paragraphs. A paragraph is a group of sentences that focuses on one idea or topic. A writer will show you the beginning of a new paragraph by indenting the left margin of the text if the text is handwritten. This means that the left margin is dented or pushed in 5 spaces, about 2.5 centimeters, at the beginning of the first sentence of a new paragraph. This is the signal the writer gives to readers that a new paragraph begins at that sentence. If the paragraph is written using word processor, as in the case here, common practice is to leave the indents out. The start of a new paragraph is indicated by the spacing. So if you noticed when I did part 1 with you just now, I sort of let you know which paragraphs we were looking at there, right? You could have numbered them. The biggest thing is that there's always a space in between each paragraph, right? If you have separate paragraphs, there's a space in between them. It's just the way of writing something. Now here we're getting into the important stuff, the stuff that has to do with the first question, okay? In addition to indenting a new paragraph, writers also indicate that they are moving on to discuss a new idea by writing a topic sentence. The topic sentence is usually the first sentence in a paragraph, and it tells readers that the paragraph is and it tells readers what the paragraph is going to be about. The sentences that follow the topic sentence will develop this main idea by providing details, facts, or explanation. The topic sentence should not only introduce the main idea of the paragraph, it should also catch the reader's attention and make them interested in reading further. To end a paragraph, before moving on to discuss something new, a writer will compose an effective concluding sentence. So for anybody wondering, the topic sentence is the first sentence. The concluding sentence is the last sentence. And we're talking about a paragraph, right? So the first sentence in a paragraph is the topic sentence, and the last sentence in a paragraph is the concluding sentence. In addition to ending the paragraph, the concluding sentence will make a final comment on the overall meaning or importance of the topic just discussed in the paragraph. Writing effective topic and concluding sentences are essential to writing good paragraphs. Be sure to always proofread your paragraphs and make certain that you have included these important parts of paragraph structure. Okay, so before we get into question 1, again, a reminder, the topic sentence is the first sentence, and the concluding sentence is the last sentence. And for anybody seeing the screen, you might wonder, well, why did I put one line under topic sentence, and why did I put 2 lines underneath concluding sentence? Well, it's because question 1 says, read the following paragraph and then underline the topic sentence with 1 line and the concluding sentence with 2 lines. So I'm trying to remind you that you'll read this paragraph and the very first sentence, you will underline it with 1 line. And then the very last sentence, you will underline it with 2 lines. So anybody that can see the screen can see that I have already done that. Let me just read this paragraph, and then I will reread the very first sentence, and then I will reread the very last sentence and remind you how you underline them. You can research employment possibilities in a variety of different ways. One place to begin your search for a new job is the classified ads of your local newspaper. These provide an up-to-date list of the jobs which are available in your community. Another way to learn about job opportunities is to get to know people who are currently working in the field you are seeking to enter. Developing a network of contacts can allow you to learn of an opening as soon as it is available. The internet is another great place to look for work. Many companies post job vacancies on their web pages. The Canada Employment Centre also has many resources available for job seekers. With all of these ways to find a job today, it seems that the biggest challenge facing anyone looking for work today is deciding where to begin. Okay, so again, for the first question, it says to underline the topic sentence with 1 line, and then underline the concluding sentence with 2 lines. So the topic sentence is the very first sentence. I'll say it again. You can research employment possibilities in a variety of different ways. Just so that everyone knows, all the concluding sentence does is it just reminds you of what the topic was. And in this paragraph, we have a very long concluding sentence, and it's okay that it's long. It's going to be different, slightly different than our topic sentence, but it will still remind us of the fact that there's a lot of ways to look for a job, right? Okay, so this is what I have underlined twice. Remember, you underline the concluding sentence, the very last sentence, with 2 lines. With all of these ways to find a job today, it seems that the biggest challenge facing anyone looking for work today is deciding where to begin. Okay, so I mean, the words, the extra words at the end about how, it's hard to decide where to begin, it's okay to put those in. The person, whoever wrote this paragraph, just tried to make it interesting and engaging, and just tried to get people thinking about actually searching for a job, sort of thing. Oh, which makes me think of the fact that 2 classes ago I shared a new a new video series that I created on YouTube. It's all bonus material. We didn't even talk about it in this course, but I have a whole video series on related to the job bank in Canada and job searching. So if anyone's thinking, oh, if anyone is interested in doing some job searching, maybe you finished assignment 27, which was where you wrote a resume and then you're thinking, oh, now I'm inspired to try to look for a job, but maybe you need a little bit of help, you can check out that video series. And oh yeah, and also um, um, now that this term is over, um, I will be offering to send out USBs to anybody that would like a USB. So I put all of the PLAR English resources onto that USB, and I'll include the new video series that I made. So keep that in mind. You know, if you'd like a USB, you can let me know and I can send you one, send one to your community for you. Okay. Question 2. All right, so again, question 1, sorry about that. Question 1, you underlined the topic sentence once, and you underlined the concluding sentence twice, right? First sentence, 1 line. Last sentence, 2 lines underneath it. Second question. Your task here, it says question 2, writing. It's worth 18 marks. Write a paragraph expressing an opinion on the topic below. So they're going to give us a topic soon. Develop your main idea with at least 3 supporting details, proof, facts, examples, etc. Okay, so to be more specific, just like I've talked about, you're actually looking for, right, it says 3 supporting details, proof, facts. So it's 3 details with examples to go with each detail, right? So you'll have your topic sentence and your concluding sentence, right? And then in the middle, you know, I'll be looking for at least 6 sentences in the middle, right? Audience and purpose, an adult who is interested in your opinion, someone like me, right? And length, the space provided for your written work indicates the approximate length of the writing expected. Okay, you have about a page. You have a page. You have a page to write your paragraph. Topic, this is what you need to know. Are cell phones necessary in teenagers' lives? So either you think cell phones are necessary or you think that cell phones are not necessary. You pick one, okay? Don't try to argue both sides, just pick one side to argue, right? Whatever your opinion matches with, right? So I'll go through, I'll show you the sort of thing that you do for your rough notes. Okay, so I have this would be the middle, right? And when you're writing it out, you want to write in full sentences, right? This is just an outline. This is just a space for rough notes. So nothing you write in this space will be marked. So you can see what I was talking about having a reason and an example, a reason and an example, and then another reason and then an example. So for me, I'm thinking that I want to go with something like this, and I've written a topic sentence already. You know, you could just decide what your opinion is, and then when you write out your final paragraph, you could write the topic sentence after. You could write the topic sentence on the next page, right? But I've written out the topic sentence already here. So this is what I have. In my opinion, teenagers are old enough to have cell phones, and there are several reasons why they should have them. So you notice how I use the words in my opinion. So I have in my opinion, comma, teenagers are blah, 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 right? A really easy way to remember what to do when you're writing a persuasive paragraph is to remember this transition, in my opinion. Because when you're writing a persuasive paragraph, you're expressing your opinion, and you need to express that opinion clearly. Right? So I've decided that I think teenagers are old enough. So I'm expressing that opinion, right? In my opinion, teenagers are old enough to have cell phones, and there are several reasons why they should have them. So in the middle, I have my reasons, and with each reason, I have an example, right? So one reason could just be convenience, right? And then I have an example of that for checking email or taking pictures. Second reason, communicate with family and friends. Example, just to get a hold of each other, right? In different scenarios where you'd need to get a hold of each other. Third reason, for safety, right? So a teenager could have a phone if they were stranded, if there was an emergency. And then the last part here, I've got my concluding sentence to give you an example here. For all of these reasons, cell phones are necessary in teenagers' lives. Okay, so I just shared my opinion that I think teenagers are old enough to have cell phones, and there are several reasons why they should have them. I tell you those reasons, I give examples with each reason. And then I have a concluding sentence. For all of these reasons, cell phones are necessary in teenagers' lives. Now, you notice I've used two transitions here. You'll need to use at least two transitions, right? And I shared these in particular because I feel like they're easy to remember for a persuasive paragraph, right? I mean, starting off, in my opinion, and then you say what it is, right? And then, and then you list reasons for your opinion in the middle. And then you could even, you could finish it off with for all of these reasons. And then remind people what your opinion is, right? For all of these reasons, cell phones are necessary in teenagers' lives. Now, this part is marked. This is where you put it all together. Here's an example for you. In my opinion, teenagers are old enough to have cell phones, and there are several reasons why they should have them. For starters, cell phones are convenient. Teenagers might need to take pictures or send emails for their friends. Cell phones also make it easier for teenagers to communicate. For example, parents would appreciate hearing from their adolescents while they are out and about. Most importantly, cell phones can save teenagers' lives. Perhaps a teenager gets stranded while driving and needs to phone for help. For all of these reasons, cell phones are necessary in teenagers' lives. Okay, so again, you need to write out the final paragraph. That is the part that gets marked. And then just the evaluation. I'm not going to go through this whole checklist. If you choose to do the practice test, you can look at the checklist. I just want to make sure we have enough time today. Basically, topic sentence is worth 2 marks, right? Looking for the opinion to be clear and a full sentence. The content, the middle part, is worth 6 marks. Remember that 6 sentences altogether, right? Reason, example, reason, example, reason, example. And then, of course, a concluding sentence that'll be similar to your topic sentence, but not exactly the same, 2 marks. Same rules, needs to be clear, needs to be a full sentence. Correct spelling and grammar, correct grammar, spelling, and punctuation, that's out of 4 marks. Correct sentences out of 2 marks. Okay. And then using your transitions, so you need at least 2, and I shared 2 specific ones with you that I thought would be easy to remember. Okay, and then this is just a quick outline, just what your paragraph needs, right? Your good topic sentence, 6 sentences in the middle, a good concluding sentence, proper spelling and grammar, and using at least 2 transitions. Part 3, so here we are, part 3, and this is just multiple choice here. So I'll just go through each one, and I want to focus on just the correct answers today, okay? I'm just going to explain which answers are correct and why they're correct, and maybe some grammatical rules, or if there are any grammatical rules that apply. Question 1, which of the following is written correctly? Okay, so again, I'm just going to circle the one that's correct, and the correct one is B. Let me read it out. Hooray! I won a free trip to the amusement park. So what we have here with the word hooray, okay, is we have an interjection, right? Interjection, hooray! An interjection that expresses strong emotion. And when we have a strong emotion to be expressed, we need to put an exclamation mark at the end. So you notice, hooray, exclamation mark, I won a free trip to the amusement park. And there is another exclamation mark at the end of the second sentence there, and that's fine because the person's just really excited, right? I mean, if we put a period at the end, that would be correct too. But sentence B is correct because it is the only one that uses the interjection correctly, right? It's the only one that expresses what's happening correctly, right? The other ones, the punctuation has some errors, isn't used correctly. Number 2, which sentence of the following paragraph does not have the correct verb tense? Okay, so, and this is the key here. It does not have the correct verb tense. So an approach that we could take would be to read it, and while we read it, we can underline the verbs, and then we can compare them, okay? So I'm just going to read it, and while I'm reading, I will underline, and then we'll do the next step. Darren went to the store and bought a loaf of bread. On his way home, he runs into his best friend. He forgot he had to take the bread home. Instead, he played games with his friend until dinner time. When he finally got home, his mother was very annoyed with him. Okay, so we have in the first sentence, we have went and we have bought. I'm just listing off the verbs for you. So I'm just showing you a strategy that you could do to figure out the answer. Second sentence, we have runs. Okay. Third sentence, we have forgot. Oh, and actually, technically, it's a verb phrase. We have had to take. Okay. It doesn't really matter that much, but it's a verb phrase. Number 4, we have played. And sentence number 5, we have 2 verbs. We have got and was. Okay, so the thing is that if we look at went, bought, forgot, had to take, played, got, was, you know, most of the verbs are in the past tense. Most of the verbs are in the past tense. And you want to stick with the same tense. When you write something, you want to keep the same tense throughout. So the one that is different is runs, okay? Runs is in the present tense. Okay? And remember that runs is with the second sentence. So when we're looking at the one that does not have the correct verb tense, it's like saying which one is not like the others, right? And we look at sentence 2 and we look at the verb from sentence 2 and we see that it is runs, right? Runs. Then, and we know that it's the present tense and everything else is in the past tense. We can say that the sentence that does not have the correct verb tense is sentence 2, and that's answer B. Sentence 2 does not have the correct verb tense because everything else is in the past tense, but runs is in the present tense. Question 3. Choose the word that best completes the sentence. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and give you the correct answer here. I'll just, you know what, I'll write it in, and then we can circle it too, right? As long as it's clear which answer you've chosen, it's fine with me. The high school team won the championship despite, that's our word, the captain's injury. The high school team won the championship despite the captain's injury. Another way to say that is that you could say even though the captain was injured, the high school team still won the championship. That's another way to say this instead of using the word despite. So the correct answer is A, despite. All right, continuing along. Question 4. Which sentence does not belong in the paragraph? Number 1. So I'll just read this out. The Torino Games were Canada's most successful Winter Olympics to date. During the 2 weeks, 24 medals were earned by the Canadian athletes. Canadian competitors did exceptionally well in women's hockey, moguls, curling, cross-country skiing, and skeleton. The most successful athlete was Cindy Klassen of Calgary, who accumulated 5 medals in speed skating. Cindy also enjoys hiking and rock climbing. The next games will be held in Whistler, British Columbia, where Canada hopes to improve on this impressive result. So I'm just watching the time here. I want to make sure that we don't run out of time. So I'm just going to speed up a little bit here, okay? So the correct answer is C, sentence 5. The whole paragraph is all about the Torino Winter Olympic Games. That's what the whole paragraph is about. But the reason why sentence 5 does not belong is because it's specific. It tells us about what Cindy likes to do, right? It says Cindy also enjoys hiking and rock climbing. but our paragraph is about how successful the Winter Olympics were, right? So a sentence about what Cindy enjoys doing has nothing to do with our main idea there. Okay, so C, sentence 5. Number 5, choose the sentence that is correctly written. I'll just give you the answer here. Okay, and I'll explain why. C, she is interested in applying for the job and will submit her application tomorrow. Okay, so this just has to do with verb tenses, right? She is interested in applying for the job and will submit her application tomorrow. So when we see the word tomorrow here, we need the future tense will submit. That's why that's the correct answer there. Okay, it's just a couple more here. Choose the sentence that is correctly written. Again, I'll focus on the correct one here and explain why. Tiger Woods, comma, a world-class golfer, comma, is competing in a golf tournament today. So what you want to do, and I'll put this in the notes after class, is you want to put commas around the extra words. So we could say, this would be a full sentence, we could say, Tiger Woods is competing in a golf tournament today. But we've added extra words to explain who he is, right? So we have Tiger Woods, comma, a world-class golfer, comma, is competing in a golf tournament today. So the correct answer is C. That is the correctly written sentence. Number 7, choose the best opening sentence for the following paragraph. Let me read the paragraph. In 1999, at least 6 billion people lived on Earth, and predictions indicate that another billion will be born by 2020. Scientists estimate that the world's population will increase to 9 billion by 2054 and 10 billion by the end of the 21st century. Humans need to find a way to sustain a booming population and continue to provide everyone with the necessary resources. Okay, very quickly, an approach would be, right, because what we have is a paragraph that does not have a topic sentence, but we do have a concluding sentence. So we can look at the very last sentence. Humans need to find a way to sustain a booming population and continue to provide everyone with the necessary resources. So this whole paragraph is all about how, you know, more and more people are coming onto this planet, and we need to make sure that everyone has what they need, right? So, and we're worried about this, right? We need to think about this more and more, right? The more people that we have, the more we have to worry about it, right? So I'll just give you the correct answer here. Population growth is an increasing concern, right? So as more time passes, more people will be here, and the more we'll have to worry about making sure that people have what they need, right? So population growth is an increasing concern. Number 7, A is the correct answer. Okay, so we're on the last part here now, and this really won't take long, and I apologize if I end up going maybe a little bit too fast through it. I tried to fit in a lot this year, or this term rather, more than last term. So we're looking at this photo, and for anybody that cannot see it, there are a bunch of teenagers. They look pretty much like teenagers, and they're sitting somewhere. Like, it looks like they're part of an audience, perhaps. They're sitting and they're clapping and they're smiling and maybe even laughing, but they certainly look like they're having a good time, and it looks like they're clapping too. So when you think of a headline for a newspaper article, a headline is like a title. It's a title that says something about who and what and sometimes where, but you at least need to say a little bit about who and what in your headline. So here's an example for you here, okay? So keeping that picture in mind with the clapping, happy students, we could write a headline something like, high school students enjoy a talent show. Maybe you think it's something else. Maybe you agree with me. As long as it's possible, it's correct. Okay. And number 2, write a caption for this photo. So a caption, if anyone remembers from when I talked about assignments 14 and 15, a caption just explains what's going on in the picture, right? So something like this. Students, students laugh and applaud during the talent show. Oops. Make sure that you can see that. Students laugh and applaud during the talent show. And you notice that I mentioned who was in the picture too, right? So it's who and what is happening, right? That's what a caption needs to have in it, right? A caption could also indicate where or what, right? My caption works. Students laugh and applaud during the talent show. And then you answer questions about the 5 W's and H. What is that? Well, we have who, what, where, when, why, and how. So 5 W's, who, what, where, when, why, and then that H is the how. So you just answer these questions, who or what is the article about? Okay, well, I could say something like, this article is about high school students watching a talent show, right? Could say that. And don't worry, in the notes after class, I'll make sure that these are nice and easy to read, these examples. What has happened? You could say something like, the students have been enjoying a funny performance. The students have been enjoying a funny performance. Where did it happen? Well, a random answer. Maybe something like it happened at a high school in Manitoba, say. Could be anywhere, right? In Manitoba. When did it happen? How about it happened during the month of April? Maybe the teachers were nice and wanted to give the students a break, right? During the month of April. That'd be a good time to have a talent show, I think. Why did it happen? Okay, so maybe it happened because the teachers arranged a fun event. And so if they hadn't have taken the time to do that for the students, then it wouldn't have happened, right? It happened because the teachers arranged a fun event. How do people feel about the event? Well, how do people feel about the event? Well, you could say something like, everyone was really happy to get out of the classroom and do something fun. That's how people felt. They were really happy to get out and do something fun. Get out of the classroom and do something fun. Okay, so you can see how quickly we got through part 4, right? So, read through the entire, when you write a test, I recommend looking through the entire test and thinking of a strategy. Okay, am I going to do, am I going to start at the beginning and go through from the beginning to the end? Or is there a section that I think might be really easy that I might just want to get over with, from the beginning and then kind of go back, right? I mean, it's up to you, right? Remember that you can use a dictionary or thesaurus, and remember that there is a 2-hour time limit. And when you write the final test, you must also write it at the Learning Center, right? So, I would be letting you know that you're allowed to write the final test, and I would send it to the Learning Center for you. And then, you would make arrangements to write it, and you would go in and write it. Well, thank you to everybody who was listening, and thank you to all the students who worked so hard during this school year. I saw a lot of excellent work, and I had a really great time. I hope everyone has a great summer, and Remember, right, that deadline, right, this Friday to hand in work, Friday, June 16th, so that all of the PLAR teachers will have enough time to mark it before their summer holidays start. All right, and you can still work on your work over the summer, but the PLAR teachers are off during the summer. Other students that are not PLAR students can take different courses. But if you're a PLAR student, right, your deadline to hand in work is June 16th, and then if you choose to do any work over the summer, you're on your own. You can hand it in, and it will be marked in September, right? So anything that gets handed in after June 16th will not be marked until September. All right, thanks and have a good night.